Hi, I am Saachi and I am an independent artist and singer, songwriter, producer, all of those fun things. And I am from Mumbai. Been doing this for like 7 years now. And I kind of dabble with R&B, funk, soul, pop, that kind of stuff. Oh, that was way back when I was a kid. I like most people do, like my parents were really excited about me doing music, but as a hobby. So I kind of took to a harmonium. I was gifted a harmonium by my grandmother, and I really didn't know that I wanted to, much later get into singing. But that's what I sort of got started on, and I used to listen to all kinds of different stuff. Even though I played the harmonium, the kind of music I listened to was like Michael Jackson and the 80s, from the States, that kind of stuff. So technically started in classical music. I think doubt, I mean, like whenever you're starting out something new, it's the exact same amount of doubt where first of all, the industry is so complex. It's not as simple as most other industries are, where you have a distributor, you have a publisher, you have like multiple things. And that gets a little daunting. How I dealt with that was, I would say, talking to people who've gone through it was the biggest sort of learning, where they let you know of all of these multiple options that you have and kind of comfort you into letting you know that it is your decision ultimately. And barring that is just the thing of taking the first step. I think that is the hardest part that you'll come across. Once you've done that, then you sort of get the ball rolling anyway. So I think um the fear is part good, part bad. And the way to get over it is to talk to more people who've probably dealt with it. And then also just tell yourself you're doing this because you love it. So eventually it stops. I guess it is that all of this is not a one time thing. The journey you're going to have is going to be full of things that, again, will be first. Some of them will continue to be your first, and some of them will be easier. Like things get easier, and then you'll have new challenges as well. But the biggest thing I think is that you're going to evolve as you keep doing this. Whatever you start with, the sound you start with, the way you approach releasing music and making music will continue to change and evolve. And that's a good thing. I wish someone had told me that all of these evolutionary things, it's a good thing. The change will be a good thing. I think there's two sides to it. I will not sugarcoat this. Go to therapy. This is the first one. If you're feeling overwhelmed by, like, I think our process of making anything is so complicated. Everyone has their own way of doing it. And of course, the first thing is figure out what it is about it that is keeping you so stuck and rigid and adamant that you want to keep working on it. I literally just came from a therapy session that talked about perfectionism, so this is great. But I think internally it's this thing of all of our songs are sort of like our babies. We've gone on a journey trying to first deconstruct what we felt and try to make this musical piece that kind of reflects that and what we've been through. And there is, with that comes this thing of like, I want to be a great musician. But I think a song itself lets you know when it's done. I think that beyond that, we're just trying to polish our little egos and going like, no, it can be better and it could sound like 5% better. I don't think any of that matters. If a song, its essence is done, you can stop at any stage. It could even be like 5 stems and 5 instruments that you put down on your MIDI, and it's done. It doesn't have to always be complicated. I think that's the biggest takeaway. I think actually back when there was just analog music, they had a certain amount of stems that they could work with, and that's it. They couldn't do more, and that was the perfect thing, is do less sometimes. You don't have to make things complicated unless the song asks for it. I think the biggest challenge I faced, and I'm sure this is still a thing that happens today, is that people don't see any kind of creative art as a viable lifestyle or a career. And I think that that'll be the biggest struggle in any new artist's life, is like to make sure that you have first convinced yourself that that is not true. And that'll be a lifelong thing of like, it's an industry that is a mystery, and makes sense. With that mystery comes like a lot of doubt for people who've never dealt with it, especially. And that's something that's your biggest hurdle. Everything else will fall into place the more you do it. Your music is going to keep on getting better. Your confidence in how you make that music will keep on getting better. It's just the thing of, it is something that people have been doing for eons. So you're not the first one and you won't be the last one, but don't neglect it because you're afraid. I think that's the biggest disservice you can do, because art belongs outside your bedroom. My favorite question. Um, Being independent, I think for me, the first thing is talking about things that are important to you. I think that saying what you want, how you want to say it, is the biggest part of being an independent artist. You are not going to have any kind of filtering or censoring, for the lack of a better word, when you're writing these songs or giving these messages out. And that's one. And the second is, you're going to have to work doubly hard, because independence with independence also comes a lot of responsibility, and I think those two things go hand in hand. And but at the end of the day, you're going to be really happy because you got to call the shots, and you're not doing someone else's whims and fancies. You're doing exactly what you want to do, and that is very rewarding at the end of the day. So, this world definitely was very new to me. I actually didn't even know what distributors are. I didn't know how people made music and sort of got around to the world. And in getting informed about all of these things, the biggest thing for me, like I said before, was people who've done this. I think that was kind of the North Star of how do I get about this? And the second was, I am a student. I was like 17, 18 years old at the time. So how do I make this small start with whatever I do already have, and I don't have to go out of my means, because that's another thing, right? You can't spend out of your budget. Don't do that. It's not a smart choice. And so I think in those two things, the first thing was that I've learned about what a distributor was, and the one distributor that everyone agreed at that point that was perfect for people who are trying to be independent and trying to adhere to their budgets and get support. That's where TuneCore kind of came in comparison to a lot of the other options that were available, because they replied to your problems. So I think that was the biggest one, that I needed the assurance that if something were to go wrong, and invariably, as things do with metadata and whatnot, that I will have help. And that was, at that time, TuneCore just ticked all those boxes. I don't even remember how much I paid, but I definitely know that it was in my budget. So, I started off as a singer-songwriter, but somewhere along the line, especially in the lockdown, I started producing, mainly out of necessity, because I wanted to. I love the human interaction when you're making any kind of song, and I was like, I need to teach myself how to do this. And eventually, I'm also producer, singer-songwriter, producer. So I started doing these really fun projects. One of which was Barefoot Boys, which is a really fun podcast about like a cinematic podcast about Mohan Bagan, which is India's first football team. And I had the pleasure of working on that, which is just a really wonderful thing to go back into your history and also find the resilience and strength and all of the things I love talking about in my music in this podcast, and turned it into a really nice instrumental track, which is very new to me as well. So makes sense. And I don't talk about these things enough. I'm really, really happy and proud of that product. So I hope more people listen to it. Thank you for watching that video. If you like that, subscribe to TuneCore India's YouTube channel, and some more of where that came from.